be, and I think there's only one way to build them: union strong. All day long. Only one way to build them: union strong. All day long. And in this room, in this place, I believe that conscience, that vision of Black power is the guiding voice, the guiding force that this country needs, that this community here in Florida needs most especially. And to your amazing president, Kerb, I'm so glad I met him in Memphis. He preached, be happy. Then I got to preach and everybody else happy, in case they missed it on his sermon. I already saw some of our friends, Mr. Williams, and folks who represent Memphis and Tennessee so well. Thank y'all for y'all support over, we've been running for office almost a year. Thank you for your support over all that time, knocking on doors, making phone calls, building this movement. I do bring you greetings from Tennessee, where I serve in the House of Representatives. And thank you, and serve some good Our fight against white supremacy, against the Confederacy, old ideologies and patriarchy and injustice are alive and well. Indeed, it is still good to be here with you all in the Confederate state of Florida. As we continue to charge our resistance and persistence against the bigoted, hate-filled, racist, dogma, and evil white supremacists, domestic terrorists, Ron DeSantis, Casey DeSantis, and Paul Ritter, and Jeanette Nunez, to name a few, and the entire House of Representatives, and the entire Senate in the state of Florida, who continue to launch attacks on conscious people and people who demand fair wages and justice. I'm glad to be here in the fight for justice, even in the Confederate state of Florida. That's what I've come to learn. What I've come to understand is that it's in these kinds of places that movements are born. It's in these kinds of places that movements are reinvigorated and the messages resound around the country. It's in these kinds of places where the marginalized and the rejected and the oppressed get together. It is these kinds of places where I know and I have seen liberation break through. Liberation comes because the people who've been pushed to the bottom, the people who've been pushed to the periphery, refuse to stay there. They claim, even in a place like this, that Florida's democracy is for everybody. And so they fought to end felon disenfranchisement in the state. Even in a place like this, the first Congressman of Generation Z was elected. Even in a place like this, Donna Deegan was elected mayor of Jacksonville. Even in a place like this, we realize that people who've been pushed to the margins and the periphery will not stay there. And that's good news for us. We will not stay there. You can push us down, but we will not stay there. You can try and expel us, but we will not stay there. You can marginalize us, but we will not stay there. You can talk down to us, but we will not stay there. And now more than ever, we're in need of these kind of people. We're in need of people who prioritize the lives of the communities from which they come. We need people who prioritize those who've been for too long subjugated and exploited because of their race, because of their class, because of their sexual orientation, because of their zip code, because of their economic exploitation and status. We need conscious people because consciousness is under attack. It's under siege by those who prefer an ignorant and a docile people rather than an educated and a powerful people. We're in need of union folk, educated folk, powerful folk who are empowered by their jobs and by their communities and by their life skills and schools of learning to build a movement of justice and love. We're in need of a movement. We're in need of a movement of people who can't be bought out, who can't be broke down, who can't be stopped, who can't be suckered into bad deals by CEOs and corporations acting in bad faith on behalf of shareholders and stockholders rather than the people who make this country run. We are in need of a movement that looks like this room. And y'all, I got got to tell you, our history commands our attention and our action amidst persecution. We are not new to persecution in this country. We are not new to the lies that have been told on us and about us. But nor are we new to perseverance. Nor are we new to resilience. Nor are we new to resistance and action amidst injustice. And now in this moment in time, it's time for us to gear up and to fight back. It's time for us to gear up and to fight back against the siege happening on black women and black men and black people and black children in a country where gun violence is the #1 killer of our children. The National Rifle Association, the American Firearms Association are willingly putting our babies' lives at stake for their own profits. We're in need of a movement of people who are refusing to be bowed down and broken because we are tired of being denied access to the justice that this country proclaims. We're tired of being denied access to equal housing and education, economic resources that this country has plenty of. But somehow it gets stuck at the top. And it does not trickle down as some white supremacists thought that it would. And instead it's getting caught up, and not only is it getting caught up at the top, it's taking spaceships and rockets to outer space. Our people in our communities don't have enough resources to have food in their refrigerator. We are in need of a movement and of a people who understand persecution but who also understand resilience. We've got to understand the situation in which we find ourselves. We are still locked up and locked out of opportunity more than any other group in the nation. We're still sending young black men and women to prison more than to colleges and universities. We're still living in a society where black women who give birth have 3 times the likelihood of dying while giving birth than white women. We're still being fired from jobs that we've worked for longer than people by people who are white and younger. We're still having corporate CEOs exploit workers who actually make this economy and this country move because they're more interested in greed and profits, like IFF is in Memphis. We've got white supremacists and white supremacist ideology governing decision making in too many unions and in too many state capitals. Instead of lifting everybody up, we're being left out. We've got people who are running to lead this country who are bent on erasing us from it. This is not happening in 1823. This is not happening in 1923. This is happening in the year of our Lord, 2023. People give so much credence and credit to our ancestors, as we shall and as I will. But we must realize that one day we will be ancestors. One day people will speak about what we did, and we have a responsibility to be willing and able to answer them from the great ancestral cloud of witnesses that we did all that we could, that we fought as hard as we could, that we marched endlessly, that we spoke endlessly, that we gave all that we had in order to create a life that was better for them, because I believe there are some ancestors who've gone on to glory now, who rested their eyes knowing that they had done just that. That amidst persecution, they gave all that they could give. And the question for us here in the Confederate state of Florida is are we giving all that we can? Are we giving all that we can to the movement of justice in order that when we are in that great cloud of witnesses, there'll be some young colored folk in a room just like this one centuries and centuries from now who will say, thank God. Thank God that they organized. Thank God that they mobilized. Thank God that they were activated. Thank God that they wouldn't accept being pushed to the periphery. Thank God that they spoke up. Thank God that they fought. Thank God that they gave all that they had with all that they had. Thank God. Will there be a people centuries and centuries from now who will thank God that you were sitting in this room? We've got problems that we must address because we are at risk of being erased. That means we've got to look within ourselves and decide where is it that we are perpetuating the systems of white supremacy, anti-black racism, and injustice within ourselves and our communities and our organizations and institutions. And so this is personal because it's a personal journey that I am on as I continue to unlearn white supremacy and white patriarchy within myself. We have been erasing black women, and we've got to stop. From our organizations, from our leadership, and we've got to stop. We wouldn't be here if it weren't for black women. We wouldn't be here if it weren't for black women. If it weren't for black women who marched. If it weren't for black women who organized. If it weren't for black women who gave us birth. If it weren't for black women who endured slavery. If it weren't for black women who raised children who weren't even their own. If it weren't for black women who got raped in the cotton fields and still raised people to believe they were somebody. If it weren't for black women who kept building families when black men got enlisted. If it weren't for black women who keep putting money on books and on canteens in prison. If it weren't for black women, we wouldn't be here. I thought if you more folk would stand up and realize that if it weren't for the black women in your life, and it weren't for the black women in my life, and it weren't for my grandmother, great-grandmother, great-great-grandmother, great-great-grandmother's grandson, I wouldn't be standing here. We gotta stop erasing the people who paid the price for us to get here, for us to stay here, and for us to fight like hell to be here. We want the Confederate state of Florida, Texas, and Tennessee to stop erasing our people. We've got to stop erasing our people. This is not a journey that you're on by yourself. Me and O'Shea talked about this for several hours just a couple of days ago about my own patriarchy. Grew up with 4 brothers. Father who's a preacher, a mother who's a teacher getting a doctorate degree. She grew up with 4 brothers. I grew up in the South as a Christian man. I grew up with a lot of privileges and a lot of non-privileges. But I do realize that patriarchy is a privilege that I have inherited, and it is my responsibility to use this unearned privilege to dismantle it. And for the few white people who decided to come to church, it's time for you to use your white privilege to dismantle these systems of injustice that's holding all of us back. It's time for you white people who keep benefiting from white supremacy, who keep benefiting from classism and racism and sexism. It's time for you to stand up. It's time for you to speak up. It's time for you to get expelled. How is it that the most oppressed people are also responsible for our salvation? While you get more money, you get more promotions, you get more access to opportunities than the rest of us. Now, if you want freedom, it's going to cost you something. It ain't just going to cost you something when you come to the National Black Caucus meeting. It's going to cost you something in private corporate boardrooms. It's going to cost you something at Thanksgiving dinner. When your Uncle so-and-so is using the N-word. Talking about how black people this and black people that. You got to stand up and speak up and say, I don't know where you get that experience from, but I work with them. I see them give the best of their service. I work with them. I see them take care of their families. I work with them and I see them organize and mobilize. I work with them. I don't know where you got your narrative from, but I got a different narrative. Maybe that was the narrative in the 60s when you were supporting racism, but I got a different narrative because I'm trying to dismantle it and get everybody free. Stop telling us the salvation of the country is on the people who are most oppressed. Black folk, indigenous folk, poor folk are tired. We've been marching to save this country for centuries. It's about time that a multiracial, multi-generational, multi-ethnic, multi-socioeconomic movement of people stand up, rise up, and speak up to fight alongside us. Indeed, black women are how we got here. It's folks like Cornelia Crenshaw who in 1968 organized the I Am a Man sanitation worker strike in Memphis. In fact, she gave them the slogan, I am a man, from a poem she had written. Organized thousands of black men to go on strike after the death of 2 sanitation workers. She's been erased from history, but it's time that she reclaim her position. An icon of the civil rights movement who fought in order to lift up poor people and socioeconomically depressed people, but was locked out of rooms with people like Dr. King and Ralph Abernathy. It's time for her to reclaim her position. She said, no person is free until the poorest person in Indianola, Mississippi is free. And if I fall, I'll fall 5 feet, 4 inches forward. It's time for Fannie Lou Hamer to reclaim her position. Lucy E. Pearson, it's time for her to claim her position as one of the great organizers in Chicago. It's time for Sylvia Woods to reclaim her position. She helped to organize the laundry workers in Chicago. She said, and I found out that people working together and fighting together for the same things is the only way that you're going to get anything. It's time for her to reclaim her position. It's time for Coretta Scott King, that great icon and leader that she is, who came to Memphis 2 days after her husband was assassinated on the streets, and marched for 40,000 Memphis, downtown in white Memphis, demanding that sanitation workers get fair pay. They get health care and they get pensions. After her husband was assassinated, in mourning clothes, before he was buried in the ground, she said, I've got to go and fight for the labor movement. It's time for her to reclaim her position. She said, I believe that this nation can be transformed into a society of love and justice, peace and brotherhood, where all men can really be brothers. Y'all, racism has been and remains the great dividing and separating stick between justice for all and injustice for everybody. The elite capitalist machine that is built on the oppression of laborers is fueled by racism. You have to realize that if they can only keep white people who are socioeconomically depressed from realizing what they have in common with black folk who are socioeconomically depressed, the only beneficiaries are those who benefit from capitalistic exploitation, which happen to be people who are, billionaires and worth hundreds of millions of dollars. But the average person, the average worker, the average people in our communities does not benefit. There's a fictional benefit that white people get called whiteness. You get promoted for a job, but you make the same pay as everybody else. Right? This is the work that has been done. Union busting, y'all know. Heather McGee talks about this in the summer months. The ways that they promote white folk to different positions, but the white folks still don't have health care, still don't have a 401k, still don't have a schedule for which they're going to seek economic prosperity. But because they're in a higher position, they choose the higher position over the benefit of everybody. We have to build what Heather McGee calls the solidarity dividend. It's going to require all of us to free all of us. I'm going to keep going because I was given a time limit and nobody put a clock. And my watch just stopped working. But the history of the country is rooted in how can we divide them? How can we divide them? Right? Let us divide them by race. Then black folks and indigenous folks and white folks won't realize the commonalities that they have together. Well, let us further divide them by class. Let us say there are rich black people and poor black people. Let us divide them further by color. There are dark-skinned black people and light-skinned black people. And you're lighter, you're better with colorism, right? Let us divide them by hair. If you have natural hair versus if you have extensions, let us divide them further. Let us put them in this community and them in that community. If they have walls around their community, they'll perceive themselves to be safer, different, and better. The country that I've sworn my hand to on a constitution, the country that we live in has built itself on division and separation. And so what does it take to heal this type of country? Unification. It takes unification, which comes with and sacrifice. It's going to be challenging, it's going to be difficult, but it is required. And that is the effort, the work of mobilizing, organizing, and activating. Y'all, it is no coincidence that we are gathered here 404 years, almost to the day, that the European-centric enslavement of African Americans began in Fort Comfort in Hampton, Virginia. 404 years ago, the enslavement of our ancestors really started with a Eurocentric perspective. But realize also that here in Florida, the Confederate state of Florida, we were here before 1619. See, 458 years ago, in 1565, the Spanish brought enslaved Africans right here to Florida. We've been here a long time. But there's something about this country and the people in positions of power that are seeking to stop us from being conscious to our existence and to our contributions in this country. Indeed, the white supremacist Florida governor says, Florida is where woke goes to die. These are the end quote. That is what he said. As Oshane taught me, it is not just an ideology that racist Ron is talking about. Racist Ron is just not talking about an ideology about wokeness or being anti-woke. What racist Ron is really saying is Florida is where people who are conscious go to die. It is where people who are conscious deserve to be killed. It's where people who are conscious do not belong, because this is a place for the unconscious. This is a place for people who refuse to be awakened. This is a place where people don't want to pay attention to justice. Florida is a place where we don't want to talk about racism. Florida is a place where we don't want to talk about transphobia. Florida is a place where we don't want to talk about justice, because if we begin to talk about justice, then we might have to do something. So racist Ron wants the mythology to persist. So he wants woke folk to die. But y'all, we ain't going nowhere. Florida says this is a place where students shall learn about skills learned by slaves that could, quote, be applied for their personal benefits. This white domestic terrorist devil who leads this state, he does not want to tell the truth, and his senators and his representatives do not want to tell the truth, and his administration does not want to tell the truth about the nation's history nor Florida's history. But where does that fear stem from? Where does it come from? What is so dangerous about telling the truth? You lost the election. What is dangerous about telling the truth? The wealth gap is 1 to 10 for black folk instead of white folk. What's so dangerous about telling the truth? Black people were enslaved for 246 years. Billions of dollars were made by our ancestors' bodies, and they got no reparations, they got no remuneration, they got no healing, they got nothing from it. There was 10 years of Reconstruction that then ended in a white lash. What's wrong with telling the truth? Well, is it that if we know who we are, if we know who we are, that we'll start to make demands? Is it fear that if we know who we are, we will start to demand fairness, and we will start to demand reparation that looks like economic justice? Is it that if we start to tell who we are, that even white children will start to ask, why are these systems still intact centuries later? What is it that they are so afraid of? They're afraid of us telling the truth. And so what must we do? We must tell the truth. We must be conscious. We must tell the truth. We must be conscious, because we realize that the issues that we care about, our economic justice, our racial justice, our social justice, our environmental justice, all of these things intersect. This movement is big enough for everybody. It's big enough for everybody. And there's no room for anybody to be outside of it. I ain't got this written down. Let me just tell you this. The reason being, we need some clear lines of distinction of who is with us and who is against us. We need some clear lines about who is with us to teeter for too long. No more time for teetering. We need to know who's with us and against us. Because either way, we gonna win. Either way, we will be victorious. Because we don't lose. That's the history of America. You want to go to war about slavery? Lincoln realizes that he can't win without black people. Emancipation Proclamation. You want the right to vote for everybody? Black people. 1964 Voting Rights Act. You want immigrants to come to the country? Black people. 1965, we made sure that more immigrants could come to the country after they were banned. We're going to win anyway. But we got to be clear about who is with us or against us because we've got work to do. Our movement has no room for anyone to be outside of it, and it requires us to be conscious of our history and of the reality in which we live ourselves. I'm going to keep going. Ocoee, Florida, November 2nd, 1920. There were some folks who said, we're going to vote. Some black folks got together and said, we are going to vote. White people for 2 days struck terror on the community. They put on their Klan's gear. They got on their horses. They rode through the town for 48 hours, telling and screaming, if any of you N-words, go and vote. It'll be your peril. They did this for 2 days, struck terror into an entire community. And still, some folk got up on voting day, put on their best suits and their best ties, put on their grandmama's jewelry, and walked to the polls. And there they were met by white supremacists who said, you got to do this and that in order to vote. And one of them said, I'm going to the judge. And he marched on and he went to the judge and said, they're denying us the right to vote. And he went back into the county of Ocoee, Florida. He said to the poll workers, he said, I need your names. Because all of us are trying to vote and you are denying us, and we're going to go to the law. We're going to go to that constitution that starts with the infamous words, we the people. And we're going to claim our right to it as well. And the story of Ocoee, Florida is so tragic and yet so triumphantly beautiful because the black people resisted. White folks did what they too often do. There was a white lash. They were angered and they were frustrated, they were mad, and they started to kill black people indiscriminately. Over 60 black people were killed on that election day. It was the most horrific act of violence on an election day in American history because black folks resisted. We didn't get here to this place and this hallowed place and these fancy hotels with presidents like her. We didn't get here because people didn't resist, because people didn't sacrifice. We got here because somebody died. We got here because somebody like Julius Perry died. Julius Perry, this is the Zen Education Project. He was one of the people who was killed. This is important to know about Mr. Perry. Mr. Perry had become the well-respected godfather of the black community. He served as a deacon in the church and the local labor leader. He was a union man. Okay. Served as a deacon in the church, led the union of his time, fought for the right to vote, realized that justice was intersectional. What good is it to be able to go to church on Sunday freely worshiping a black God? Be denied economic opportunity and injustice on Monday where you can't feed your children. Then be denied the inopportunity to live wherever you want, shop wherever you want, drink from any water fountain you wanted. So he demanded access to democracy. Our issues for justice today are still intersectional. It requires us to be educated in this movement, to realize that it does us no good to worship a black God on Sunday free. Go to work Monday through Friday, exploited, not making enough wages to take care of families. Having a 401k stripped away from our workers while the CEOs have pensions. Doesn't make sense that we have been denied the opportunity to send any children to school while their children are going to Ivy Leagues on white affirmative action. It doesn't make any sense for us to have these few things and then be denied access to the ballot. Denied access to choose our representatives instead of them choosing us through gerrymandering. Our fight for justice is intersectional because we deserve to be first-class citizens in this country because we built it. I'm almost done and I'll get out of here. This moment in our movements require this awareness of intersectional justice, of intense organization, of intense mobilization, of intense activation. We must remember our past and the women who made it possible, our ancestors who survived the transatlantic slave trade in order for us to be here, our ancestors who survived off cotton fields and tobacco fields and rice paddies in South Carolina and moved forward, even in a nation that told them they were not allowed to read, they learned to read anyhow. And now that we learn to read, we learn to write books anyhow. We learn to get educated, get PhDs, and go off to school anyhow. And now they're trying to ban the books that we're writing. But we're going to read and write and learn anyhow. We must prepare ourselves for the work that is to come. That requires our devotion to the cause of justice. Justice for everybody. And we mean everybody. That's every man, every woman, every child, every person, every race, every gender, every class. We need to prepare ourselves for a movement for everybody, and we've got to organize. Somebody say organize. Organize. We've got to come to events like this, get each other's information. We've got to follow up after. We've got to donate a little bit of money. We've got to learn a little bit more about each other's communities, but we've got to organize. We've got to mobilize. Coming up in just a few days on the 60th anniversary of the March for Freedom and for Jobs. People cut off the second part of the march on Washington. It was about freedom, and everybody needs freedom. Freedom's so good and all that, but there was a march for freedom and jobs because people were being denied access to good quality jobs. Jobs that they could retire from. Jobs that they could have a mortgage with. Jobs that they could raise their children on. People were being denied jobs then and are being denied jobs now. We have to have opportunities in spaces like this where we mobilize, where we march and we protest and we make sure that our laments are heard, and then we have to activate. Somebody say activate. Activate. Unions are powerful. There's no city councilor, county commissioner, mayor, state representative, governor that should be elected without union support. Organized, mobilized, and activated unions can run the table. In Memphis, the mayor is likely to win with 25,000 votes this October. Do you know how many people we have in unions in Memphis? 20,000. Unions could be choosing the narrative. Could be saying, if you're not talking about our issues, you might as well stay home. We'll run somebody else. That is the power of organization, mobilization, and activation. And by doing these things, with always paying homage to those who come before, we reclaim our stake in this country, not only economically, but also as a democracy. And I believe that our moment in this movement requires our reclamation of our stake in the great American experiment. For this country would not exist if it had not been for our ancestors. And the people in places like this Confederate state or Texas or Tennessee, they're afraid of our power. They are afraid of it. They are afraid of our power because they are afraid of where our power is derived from. Our power does not come from stockholders or shareholders. We have a divine power rooted in love. It is for the love of our communities and our families and our country that we give all that we've got, that we go to the well and get expelled. It is for love. And see, you can't buy that. You can't go get a college degree and give that. is an intangible, and it is our power. It is our power as a people. It is our power as a people who refuse to be bowed down, who refuse to be broken, who refuse to be bent. It is our power rooted in love of our community and our country, because we are the main ones who've been willing to truly love it toward freedom, really willing to love it toward liberty and justice for all. And therein lies our hope. Our hope and our dreams, y'all, are not some hypothetical ideation, but it lies in we, the people. Our hope lies in we, the people. Y'all know these famous words of the Constitution. Preamble says, we, the people, in order to form a more perfect union. Yes, I love that we, the people, y'all, because it sounds so black. They were white supremacists when they wrote it. But God's always been black. He gave them the words for us these centuries later. We, the people. We, the people. We, the people who will build this country by building up our community's consciousness. We, the people who will lead the present and the future with a movement where everybody is in, every black person, white person, Asian person, indigenous person, rich person, poor person, LGBTQIA, educated and less formally educated person sees justice. We, the people, who will make sure black women are given the attention they deserve in the positions of power that they work for. We, the people, who fight for a living wage for ourselves and our communities and our unions and our jobs and our country. We, the people, who will give everything that we've got to make this country the best that it can be, and a place where our children can thrive and be who God calls them to be. We, the people. We, the people that we've been waiting for, and now is the time to give all that we've got to. We, the people, who are going to build the country that our ancestors dreamed possible.